இது மனித காதல் அல்ல, அதையும் தாண்டி புனிதமானது.
The director I'm joined with today, Chidambaram, has made Malayalam cinema's highest grossing film ever, Manjummel Boys, and I watched the film twice and I still have not been over the film. I mean, it is based on a real life story that happened in 2006 in Tamil Nadu at the Guna Caves, where a group of friends were at the caves and then something really untoward happens and their life changes forever. So, Chidambaram, thank you so much for joining me on Filme Shilmy. I know you've been awfully busy, so this really means a lot for you to really, sort of have this session with us. So tell me, your first film, Jan.E.Man, was also a sleeper hit. It was also well received. Did you also expect Manjummel Boys to also kind of live up to that? I mean, what were your expectations, I think, prior to making this film?
We were sure that we were making a good film and we were sure that this will connect to the people, but we would never expected something like this much reception and love from all over the world. So this we didn't expect, but we were very sure and we had that conviction that we were making a good movie.
A lot of the times, the actual group of friends were approached for a lot of projects, I've heard. But what do you think really gave them that confidence for you to really tell their story on the big screen?
See, it was a very hard project to sell to a production house because we don't have that conventional star and we don't have a central protagonist like the regular movies. But fortunately, I had Soubin, who is my producer. He's also a filmmaker and an actor. So he backed me really, and he believed in the subject. So we found the finances to pull this off actually. So all the credit goes to the production house in a way for backing this thing, which is a very unconventional kind of production. All the budget goes to a single set.
And I think the way, and I'm glad you mentioned the set because I think the production value was very beautifully done. I think the technical aspects, the film is so rich in the camera shots that you have, the POV shots, the range of shots, the cinematography, all of that was amazing. And of course, you actually shot, I think, in the caves itself. And from what I've heard is again, you have to scale the caves. You have to really go through the technical aspects of the caves. And I think from what I know, it's a very dangerous place to shoot. Were you ever worried? Was there ever that fear of you actually stepping into such a devil's kitchen as it's known as?
So before Guna Caves was a very intimidating factor of the movie. So how to approach it, how to make it, and how do we conceive it? And it was like a lot of unknowns were there. And even like going into Guna, even when we went into the Guna Caves for the first time, uh, I thought that this movie won't happen because it was impossible to shoot there. And like on the way to the cave also I've seen a lot of holes and stuff, and I pretty much understood it's impossible to shoot here, like a movie with a lot of rain and a lot of scenes based out of these caves and like a lot of running and everything, and you have to take the crew in and out and we'll disturb the place also very much. So so we arrived at the decision to make the cave. So then where to make it, how to make it, that was also like a lot of unknowns because we haven't done this before.
Sure.
So we went inside the cave and took the measurements and everything, and we found it's hard to find a place in Kerala to put the set also. Yeah.
And I think the most amazing thing about the film is that you're friends actually with the main cast of the film as well. You sort of share a very good bond with them. And because obviously it showcases a very tragic event with this group of friends, and obviously because you have that emotional connect already with the cast, how do you think your actual personal bond really helped bring out that vulnerability in you as a filmmaker, perhaps?
Yeah. So like all of them are friends. Like most of them are friends in Malayalam movies. Like everyone knows each other. So and they're like very close to me, and so it was they had trust in me and they really helped me to put. It's a very hard shoot. It was a very hard shoot. You have to shoot in Korea. It's cold and you have to be wet in the morning and a lot of running, and that too you are shooting in a very dangerous space. and it was very taxing for them. And because of they are all friends, it was very easy for me to capture the real boys into the real boys. So the chemistry was like not forced; it was already there. So which really helped me into like make it believable that they are actually friends. So it helped me to bring them together.
Hmm. And
Yeah,
from what I remember as well, you also had to shoot in the, I mean, in the cave portions, you had to shoot before it
yeah.
publicly opened. So there was a lot of early morning shoots and all of that.
Yeah. So yeah, basically there is a logistic issue. Like if the public comes and we are shooting opposite the fence, and there are a lot of complications will happen. So of course we have to close the entries before the public comes, and plus the light is the most important factor. That I have to thank my DOP, who is a very strict DOP. He will like shoot in that light only. Like if the light is only right, like so the perfect lighting comes there at that time. So yeah, that's why. So that's my entirely good. So we don't shoot in middays. So we start at 5 in the morning, then we stop shooting by 10, 9:30, 10. Then we break, then we again start shooting by 3 in the evening.
Sure.
Full sunset. So only that light we have got. That's why the Kodai looks very beautiful in the movie. And thanks to my DOP for that.
Hmm. And it's quite interesting because Guna Caves got its name actually after the Kamal Hassan film in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
So, again, the sort of song that is referenced, it almost feels like not only is the cave, but also that song, that film is like, instrumental characters in the film as well. For
Yeah.
you, when sort of amalgamating these two factors, because see, that film is entertainment. It's a source of lightheartedness for us as audiences, and it's juxtaposed with this almost this sinister sort of omnipresence of the cave. For you to
Mm.
sort of juxtapose that as a director, what
Mm.
would you say really influenced you? I mean, was there certain movies, was there certain directors that you looked up to as well that really helped sort of enhance your vision as a storyteller as well here?
Yeah, we can't like movies only inspire like all the movies we have seen, and yeah, only the movies are the most like the biggest source of inspiration, I think. And yeah, the for juxtaposition that song into that climax sequence, and it came to me naturally because I thought that is the best score to have rather than a high climatic like full orchestral thing over there. And this song drew this boys into the cave. So when he comes out, that song should be played, and if you understand Tamil, the lyrics fits perfectly into that space.
Hmm.
So that's why it was used, and it was like we decided to use it like in the scripting stages itself. It was not a mixing studio decision; it was from the script.
And Chidambaram, when I watched this film, and very oddly, it kind of reminded me of Rang De Basanti, and I'll tell you why. Because when I
Okay.
watched Rang De Basanti, in the first half of the film, you see them as very like frivolous, like a really fun group of friends who are very close knit, who are having, just wanting to enjoy life, who are ambitious, and then suddenly one incident happens and their lives are turned completely upside down. And again, obviously that was a political cause, but here it's obviously a more emotional and a very accidental cause, obviously, that really results in the sort of tragic events that unfold. uh, Again, when it comes to you getting that correct balance of tone, because the
Mhm.
cinematography is very
Hmm.
very different. For example, we see the slow motion of them dancing as a group in a club, right?
Hmm.
But then obviously towards the second half of the film, we see that slow motion when they're trying to save, Subhash, the character who's fallen in the ditch.
Yeah.
Again, what prompted these decisions? What would you say was the guiding force, do you think, as a filmmaker in really making these technical decisions?
I don't know it. I don't know how to explain it. Like, but you write something, and I don't know what the speed of the time it should be to convey this emotion. So we are always in film. We always bend and play with time, right? So using high speeds and slow motion shots, and I don't know. It comes to me like okay, let's do this a slow motion shot. It's a decision taken then while at shoot. I think for mostly me in my workflow, it is like that. So I don't know how to say that actually.
Hmm. And the 16:3 sort of ratio as well that you have on the screen as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, why did you decide to opt for that? Because obviously, because of how grand the caves are. I mean, I'm sure if it was on, like, if you use the full screen length and the dimensions of that, I mean, it could have given it more of a grandiose sort of a presence. So why did you opt for a smaller dimension of screen?
No, actually, the thing is, if you go widescreen, you cut out the height. I needed
Okay,
more height. So
okay.
that gives you the grandeur of the cave more. So if
Mm-hmm.
you're shooting an ocean and it can be very wide, and if you're doing a desert, it can be wide. Because when you're shooting mountains and it's spaces like this, more height, you need more height.
Hmm.
So that's why we decided to go with that format.
Right. And again, the color schemes here were beautiful as well. I mean, I noticed a lot of blues. There was lots of like blacks as well. There was towards the end of the film, there's a bit more yellow and orange and kind of brownish kind of colors that really come into play here. Again, these color palettes, what significance did they hold for you? And why do you think those significance really, I guess motivated you to choose them as well?
It was not entirely my decision. Actually, my DOP and my costume department, and it was a collective decision. And yeah, so we didn't like it's in India, like in especially in South India, it's I think everything is very vibrant. Like you have every color in every frame, so you can't like actually go stick with the palette. It's very hard to do that. So mm, I don't think we followed a palette in intentionally because it all fell in place. So the Kodai soil is like it is brown when it is dry, and it is glossy black when it is wet. So the nature does the rest, and when that black and when the ground turns black, then the Fire Force guys' yellow helmets complements it. So it I don't know, everything fell into place, and that yellow helmet complement with the blue shirt Kutan was wearing.
Hmm.
Yeah, so it was like a domino effect. It all fell into place. Sometimes the movie does it magic for itself. So we didn't have a color scheme. We don't work like that. We don't, especially like so we can't have a color. It's not a dance sequence or it's not a stylized thing. It's just a real piece of life that we are trying to show. So it's not palettes fell into place like moreover, I think. But we have very conscious decision on the colors and shades of the costumes, but we didn't have follow a certain palette to achieve this thing.
And I mentioned earlier about Jan.E.Man, and I think it's interesting because in that film itself, it talks about the different personalities and how that results in, a sort of friendship, sort of a group and setting. And again, here, I think this is obviously a lot darker in comparison in terms of the sort of personality traits and the emotions that's explored. But
Hmm.
Chidambaram, do you kind of feel like being an established filmmaker now yourself? Do you kind of feel like somewhere within you there is that youth that is still waiting to explode when it comes to the stories that you tell, because it's quite interesting how you've chosen very like youthful strands in your film so far.
I don't know, like that's not uh, a deliberate decision to find always. I don't know, like so these two stories happened to me. So I don't know. The next thing I'll be making look entirely different. Of that, there won't be youthness. There won't be this friendship. So it is not my trait. Like it is not my. I don't know. Like I'm very open to all kinds of filmmaking and all films. So I will explore all the genres if I can. Yeah.
hmm I mean, Malayalam cinema right now. I mean, listen, I mean, I think Malayalam cinema has always given some wonderful performances. Again, not every film, but most of the ones that I have seen have been really great to watch. And I think recently, I watched Premalu, Brahma Yugam, and now Manjummel Boys, and they're so versatile in their approach. But there is that sense of relatability, I think, in all of them. I think vulnerability is something which uh really connects all three of these films. Do you
Mhm.
think people are finding more solace and more comfort in films which actually have vulnerability. I mean, even if we look last at Kadal with Mammootty sir and Jyotika ma'am, again, that whole sense of vulnerability which really connected with the audiences. So do you think perhaps because of the pandemic, do you think people are now warming up to that sense of vulnerability on screen as well?
I think people like to see it, and so they relate it to the subject much more because it feels like it's happening around them, and it's some people they know, and that's on the screen. So I don't know. I think I'm pretty vague on that side, but I just make movies which are like more rooted or grounded and like which we can. So this can happen. So that kind of relatability comes. I think the story works more rather than. But people also like larger than life stories like of superheroes, and superstars, and so both works. I think.
But I think the one thing that I have to say about Malayalam movies, from the ones that I have seen, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but
Yeah.
that even with stars, major stars, like for example Mammootty and Mohanlal, so whenever they come on board, yes, that sense of heroism is there, but it's not necessarily masala. A lot of the films that I've seen, for
Yeah.
example, when we look at Telugu cinema or even sometimes Hindi cinema, there is that sense of even Tamil as well. Sometimes there is that sense of masala that comes out, whereas I feel the definition of commercial is very different in Malayalam cinema. Would you agree? And what do you think has been
Course, I
led?
would agree because it all started with our limitations, with our limitations of the industry. Our screens are less and our budgets are less. So we always try to write within our what do you say, like within our limits, and which actually was the superpower, like the hidden superpower we had, because everything should be like be shot in a house, like very minimal, no 2 3 fights, and so we only think that so the content should be much exciting rather than a spectacle. So we don't write a spectacle, but we write more complicated scenes. I think so that limitations actually empowered us to make this. I think.
Soubin is a very well-known name in Malayalam cinema, right? So I think again for you to opt for actors who, like you said, are rooted, who are grounded, and not just necessarily go for the big stars to get clout. Uh, how much of an important decision is that for you as well? And you know, when you are perhaps, let's just say, if you decide in the future where you might have to compromise on the casting decisions because maybe big studios might want a well-known star in the film, how comfortable are you with actually compromising and coming to a middle ground for that?
It all depends on the project, I think. So it's all very subjective. So I don't have a like I can't say I won't do a star. There is nothing like that. You shouldn't limit also yourself. If you do a star film, do it the best way you can, as the best star film that you can like get out of it. So I think you should be open to all of it. So I can't say so you should always find a middle ground in filmmaking, I think. You gotta kind of like sometimes you have to like yeah, I think that it's always a give and take with the production. You have to respect their decisions. So while maintaining my artistic boundaries. So it is always a give and take. You can't be stern. That's no way to make an art, I think. Of course. Saubin, we both heard the story together and we decided he will produce it and I will direct. And he's also a filmmaker, so he knows the outcome, so he trusted fully in it. So Saubin was the obvious choice and the best choice for this film to be a producer and the protagonist.
Hmm. And also, another thing that I've realized is generally there is this sense of popular sort of trends of horror coming up. Like in Telugu cinema, there's been so many horror films that have released. I mean, even if it is like a horror comedy or a horror drama, like I mentioned, Brahma Yugam. We've got Late Night with the Devil in Hollywood recently, which has been an absolute masterpiece to watch. What do you think has really increased this demand in horror? Because Manjummel Boys, of course, is not a horror film; it's a survival thriller. But there are essences of it which actually kind of give a very supernatural sort of feel to it, especially with the sort of audio that you have and the sort of visuals of the blackness of the ditch.
Mm.
What do you think is contributing towards this sort of popularity and kind of sinister sort of stories coming to the screens?
Uh, Horror always worked, I think. Like a lot of horror films work globally because horror scare, fear of things. It's a very universal phenomenon, like violence or anything. So horror was always a big market. And while doing Manjummel Boys, the horror element, the place name itself is Devil's Kitchen. So when you hear the name itself, wow, Devil's Kitchen. So I started to build from there. There are a
Hmm.
lot of stories around, a lot of myths around it. So when you see, and your friend went inside that blackness, something sucked him into it, and its name is Devil's Kitchen. So the horror starts. So it's been, so that's how we try to approach it as a survival horror.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And It's interesting because I was reading up about the Guna Caves, and there's so much history that's attached to it. Again, there's the whole colonial history that India has gone through, but at the
Yeah.
same time, there's also like references of it being linked to the Mahabharat times, where apparently when the Pandavas were banished, they
Mm.
used that as the kitchen,
Yeah.
which is so interesting. And I think having something like that, it must have been interesting for you to really like get into the case. I mean, I remember reading something about there's a skull that you find, a monkey skull that you found.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe Kamal Hassan sir actually used that in Heram as well.
Yeah.
Um so again, I mean, what else did you discover when you actually went there into the caves? And do you think there was a moment where perhaps a profound moment which kind of made you also introspect on life and how fragile it can be as well when you're exploring such a thing?
Yeah. Finding the skull was the first thing. It is like it's simple as death. So it's a place where death is all around you. Like a lot of people died. Only 13 people that we know that is documented.
Mm,
So according to the locals, there's more than 50. Yeah. That includes accidents, murders, or suicides. So there are that many numbers, I think. So it's a place where you can smell death, and there are a lot of bats, and they smell. So it's going inside the cave, and I actually have seen the bats flying out of the pit. So
mm,
which was also very visceral and well, of course, it is exaggerated in the film, but yeah, you can see like bats coming out, not in a blast, but yeah. So I don't know. So the cave itself is a very magical space, and it humbles you actually, and it's a very prehistoric space, and it's I think much older than human civilization itself. So that it's very ancient, and that's why I used war horns as the score for Guna when he falls. So it is a very ancient, prehistoric or Stone Age aura you get from that, an energy you get. It really humbles you. That makes like you're nothing in the scale of things.
mhm. I'm also very curious, Chidambaram, about shooting the stunts for the film as well. I mean,
Yeah.
especially when that one shot of when Subhash is falling in the pitch darkness, and it's like almost like a zigzag type of
Yeah.
movement, the way he falls, and and I think the way you manage to do this without indulging in so much gore and
Mhm.
and bloodshed. I mean, it's a very um tough balance again to get, because I talked to you about balance earlier as well. Even the sequence when the friend goes down to really rescue him as well. Uh,
Mhm.
how did you shoot that, and what sort of training was needed, and what sort of guidance was needed from professionals for such sequences?
For the Basi Subhash falling down is part VFX and part real shot. Yeah, so
Okay.
some shots are real, some shots are full 3D.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's very hard to achieve it. So it is some shots are very hard to achieve. So we went for full 3D. Like most of it is full 3D actually. So yeah,
Okay. So when you
and
said
the final three shots are like real, and he following settling down. So to shoot the cave, he going inside. We made a set which is like open on one side, and we used the jib to track the whole movement. So and we had a best rope technician, fight master Vikram Dahiya. So the rope work was very important. There are like two bodies suspended in the air and like lot of ropes going on. It was a very complicated technical procedure, rope systems. So
Mhm,
that's how we got them inside, and like it was. I'd have to thank the stunt team for like making me like achieve this, like helping me to achieve this
mhm,
thing. So the stunt was, and the actors had to be physically fit to be on the ropes for a long time, get down, also carry one guy. So fortunately, Soubin was fit, and yeah, he pulled it off. And he literally pulled it off.
mhm. But to achieve this on a pretty modest budget, right? Because this is not like a massive budgeted film. Like, it's a very simply budgeted movie, right?
Yeah.
So for you to achieve all of this uh, with the economics that you have,
Mm.
again, I mean, it's magical. How did that happen? Because obviously, we see people like investing crores and crores of money into like a
Mm.
big film, and it doesn't actually end up looking very good, but yet you've managed to sort of really beautifully present it. So how did you manage all of that as well? Because I think it's a very important question, because I'm sure there's filmmakers out there who would love to know a bit more about that.
I don't know, like we approached it very simple, very basic stuff we need. And for example, we didn't have like we had 11 stars, but we only had one caravan. And but because we built a whole big launch like next to the cave. for also. So cost cutting, lot of things, places we have cut costs and like, and we approach and to make the, I don't know, the production designer Ajay Chalisheri, set could have been like 10-15 crores, but he finished it in 4 crores, which is which is a big thing. And like, so because I don't know, our craft is very basic, and like we don't want heavy equipments to do a lot of, we only like most of the shots are in a gimbal or in a tripod, and maybe in a jib. We don't go for complicated equipments, and most of the equipments, the camera goes inside the hole, and all we made the whole rig. We made a whole telescopic rig for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so it was all trial, and it was like a basic school project kind of vibes, and it was good. But yeah, but of course, very professionally, because Ajay and also Ajay have like built large sets, and yet he knows how to achieve this thing. So yeah, I don't know. That's it.
Well, I wish I had this as a basic school project because I would have got A plus plus plus. I think if that happened. No, but I think it's really interesting as well. And you know, Chidambaram, I think it's a very wonderful sort of another trend that I've seen as well. Because again, last year in 2018, it really talks about the human spirit and you know the undying, unwavering human spirit and humanity overcoming everything, emotions of that emotional connect of us as a society coming together to help people. And I think again, you know, we've got that sort of a theme and a concept in Manjummel Boys as well.
I don't know. Like if you talk about pure human emotions, it will connect universally, I think, and it will reach people. So even if it's a war movie and if it's a military movie, army movie or period, anything, if there's the true human conflict, my mind's conflict, if you're said and people will get it, and I think it will obviously work across genres or languages.
Hmm. Right.
Yeah.
And I know you've been really busy. You've met a lot of incredible legends across the South Indian film industry. What sort of conversations have taken place so far? And uh, as far as Manjummel Boys is concerned, because Premalu has also released in Telugu as well, I believe. So, you know, how confident are you with perhaps releasing it in other languages as well and meeting,
We are
you know,
already working on it, and I think we are releasing it on Hindi and Telugu this next month, like first week, I think.
okay, right.
Hindi and Telugu, yeah.
Right. And I think going forward, because I know you said you wanted to explore different genres,
Yeah.
is there anything concrete you're working on at the moment that you can share with us, perhaps?
No, I haven't fixed because Manjummel Boys is still happening, so I haven't like the movie's actually not over. I have to like deliver all this, and I think it will take time for me to like slowly come back with a new thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, it is good. You can't. Very grateful for the reception, and no, it gives me like a lot of confidence to like if you can think and write, you can shoot it, and people will accept it. Yeah, I think it gave me like a lot of confidence
Oh,
to
wonderful.
do it.
No, wonderful. But thank you so much, Adamram. Honestly, like I know we've been wanting to make this happen for a while, and I'm so, so glad that, you know, you could make the time out. I know you've been so busy with
Thank
meetings and
you. Thank
everything
you.
in the
Thank you for
mix.
reaching out.
But
Thank you, man. Thank you
Manjumal,
for reaching out.
it's a very, very special film. And dare I say, I think it's the best, among the best Indian films I've seen this year. And
Thank
I
you.
cannot wait to see some more great work from you.
I hope we can do an interview with better circumstances, like not running around. Like we'll sit down and chill and have an interview in future. Thanks.
No,
Thanks.
definitely. No, for sure, Chidambaram. We'll definitely be in touch going
Yeah.
forward.
Not
Thank
in
you
this.
so much.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye bye.
Bye.